Shabbat Shalom, 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 Shalom. This is your brother Kazakia, and I want to talk about something that I was inspired to talk about today as I had the opportunity to see my nephew, who I hadn't seen in probably 25 years or so, and maybe longer than that, but since he was a little toddler. And so it kind of inspired me to do a presentation, lesson, more so a presentation than a lesson. And I just want to talk from my heart because there are a lot of things that have great concern in the lives of, and please don't get this and take this video or this particular sharing in the wrong manner, but not that I'm not concerned about any other ethnic group, but there is a great concern as pertaining to the label that have been placed on people called African Americans. And let me just begin by saying this here. The whole angle that I want to hit is, what can we do now? Where we are now, what can we do? Because a lot of people are saying, well, you know, that was back then, that's the past, forget the past, I want to deal with now. Okay, real issues we're dealing with now, things that we're facing today. For example, we have a lot of young men, primarily, who, for whatever the reason may be, grew up in a home without the presence of the father. Either the father wasn't present in the home, or the father wasn't actively involved in the home. And I don't want to point the finger and make the fathers feel belittled. Things happen in life. Things happen to, especially the so-called African American community, that has happened with no other people. Okay? Now, I'm not trying to magnify the challenges that the so-called African American families have had to experience, or to belittle anybody else's experience. It's not where I'm going with this. Okay? But what I want to say is my focus is on the African American black males specifically. Maybe we'll do another video and we'll address the so-called black females. But right now, I want to focus and direct my attention to the quote-unquote African American or black males, right? To address some situations and to try to see if we can come up with some solution, okay, to what's going on. Now, like I said, there's been a lot of things that have happened in the black family, and I'm going to use that word because this is the word that's commonly used. Okay, so there are a lot of things that have happened in the black family that has caused the father to be absent for whatever the situation may be. Primarily the father. I'm not going to deal too much with the mother. I'm going to deal with the father, the males. Okay, the father. I can walk through the Bible and I can explain to you why that has happened, but right now my focus is not on why it has happened. My focus right now is on what can we do now. Okay, things have happened. Children have been born that have really never really fully been developed in their manhood as pertaining to guidance and direction from the male figure to help to focus in on what needs to be done in today's time. I will say this: every male that was born, every black male that was born in a house with an absent father, did not, or to this present day, don't have the same results. Okay? There's some that father was nowhere in the picture, but the males have become successful. They have done, they have made accomplishments. They have done some great things to impact, whether it be their communities, whether it be their religious organizations, or whether it be their own personal private businesses or some corporation that they're involved in. Okay, so we as black males, quote unquote, okay, I included myself in that, even though I don't like the terminology, but I'm using this for the sake of this particular presentation. We as quote unquote black males have to focus in on ourselves. And let's take a poll and let's look at other people, right? And let's see if we can find someone that was brought up in a similar situation as we were brought up in, with an absent father, or in my particular case, my father was present in my life. Okay? So I can't use the excuse that my father was absent and say, well, okay, why is it so hard for me? Okay? So let's pretty much put things in its proper perspective, right? What we as men have got to come to grips to realize, whether you are any other ethnic origin or not, black or whatever, we are a result of the decisions that we made. Okay? It wasn't my father, it wasn't my mother, it wasn't a wife, a girlfriend, or whatever the case was. Everything that we have, everything that I have, is a result of decisions that I made. Okay? Now, having an understanding, if we want to, first we want to identify why my story is different from this other brother's story. See, there are things that happened in my life that didn't happen in this other brother's life. Okay? Now, that is called purpose. Everybody's purpose is not the same. Okay? There are some things that I desire to do that somebody else did it, have done it, and are still probably doing it to this very day, that I couldn't even begin to do because it was not a part of my purpose. So a part of success for us is predicated upon, number one, understanding what my purpose is and understanding what I was formed to do. Okay? I'll give you an example of what I mean. I'll bring it home. Okay? Everybody, every man was not designed to be an employee. Okay? Some men would never make it as a businessman or as an employer, because some men are not cut out, but they make the best employees. They work harder than anybody else, right? And they can climb the corporate ladder like working for someone else. That is my testimony, okay? I'm not carved out to be an employee. And so in understanding purpose, what my purpose is, and understanding my character and who I am as a person, as long as I continue to try to be an employee versus be an employer, or be a businessman, I will never be successful and be happy. Why? Because that's not what I was purposed for. On the flip side, there are men that are not gifted, talented, or purposed to be a business or an employer. And the reason why they can't be successful in being a businessman or an employer is because that's not their purpose. And sometimes we waste years, and I mean years, of spending time trying to do something that we have not been called to or purposed to. Now, I want to give you something. Let's go to Ecclesiastes. I'll give you something about the scriptures, right? Okay, let's go to Ecclesiastes. And I'm going to read a very familiar passage, right? We're not, I don't want anyone to get religion in your mind, okay? When I use the scriptures, I utilize the scriptures for principal purposes, not for religious purposes. I'm not a religious person. I detest religion, and I don't do things because of religion. I do it because of purpose. And I do it because of principle and understanding what the Creator, who allowed the scriptures to be in our hands to instruct us for life, right? So let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3, all right? And it reads as follows. It says, to everything there is a season, right? And a time to every purpose under the heaven. See that? To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. And read that one more time. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. So now, what we have to first understand, young men and older men, middle-aged older men, that everything there is a season, right? You may be, see, a lot of times things happen in our life because if certain things didn't happen in our life, we would be normal, okay? And if you are one of those people, or persons rather, that have been called to be different, like the song I used to listen to on Sesame Street, it used to be a little humorous thing. It says, one of these things are not like the other, and one of these things don't belong, okay? That means you and I are the one that don't belong. So the road to your success and my success is different, because although, now I want to free you right now, so I want you to listen to what I'm saying. Someone who seems to have become successful will say to you, I worked hard to get here, right? To make you feel like that you didn't work hard. Okay? So, no, it wasn't that they worked harder than you to get what they got. It's that they worked within their purpose. And when a person works within their purpose, whether they do it or not, they was purposed to be to do whatever it is that they do. Right? But now when we lock in on our purpose, right? And I'm starting to more and more see my purpose. Okay? When we lock in on purpose, we're working hard, just as hard as the person who knows his purpose, but we're working hard trying to be successful when this other person, it seems like they're not working as hard and they're getting the success. Why? Because that person is working in their purpose, right? You and I, on the other hand, are working hard and hard and hard. It seems like the more we build, the harder it gets, and then this goes wrong, and bam, it seems like you back to the beginning, right? Why? Because the road that we have designed to take is not the road that the Creator had designed for us, but for us to get on the path to where He wants us to be, He allowed us to go through things to get to the point where we can look and say, you know what, I'm not one of them. I'm different. And so now that I understand that, now I know where to direct my attention. Okay? I can't focus on a job, on a college education to get a good job, because I am not the one who has been called with that purpose to go to school, get a good education, and work for a major firm. That's on my resume. But it seems like that when I was in corporate America, everybody else could climb the ladder. Bam, bam, bam. Me, I was stagnated. With all my knowledge and all of my brainstorming with the management and watching the management go from supervisor to manager to director to VP. You see what I'm saying? And others who were not as knowledgeable as me, not sharing any of their knowledge to the management, but yet at the same time climbing the ladder. So I'm understanding in purpose that it was not for me to be an employee to climb the ladder in that particular manner. But the Father has gifted. See, let me say it this way. Those of us who would have a success story like those who were different, who started corporations. See, it's like you and I are the visionaries. And so the pressure and the stress comes to us because the one who made us and formed us, whatever your belief is, how you got here. You know, some people believe in just fate, or we just happen to come here. There is no such thing as purpose or destiny. You know, it just happened to happen. Okay. Well, if you think along that mindset, that's your stagnation. We have to understand and come to accept that there is a purpose for every person that is on the face of this earth. And until we lock in on our purpose and see it clearly, okay? When we see that we have wasted time when others can just go and think can just happen for them and they just soar, and we work on that thing, and it seems like it's like 1,000 years for us to get to where this person got on first base in no time. That is an indicator that we're not operating in purpose. If we don't see an even progression in our production, then just maybe that's not your purpose. You see? Now, many of great people that have gone on to be inspirations to others have had to go down roads that other people never went down. And I don't want to get off into naming people's names and their success stories. There's plenty you can just Google on the internet and you can put people's names in and you'll hear their success stories. Many were drug dealers, drug users, were in prison, in and out of prison, and now they've locked in on their purpose, right? For why they were brought into this earth, right? And so now they're able to do what? Lock in on and capitalize on what? On their own. Now, let me say this. You can set your own pace. When you are a visionary or a businessman or an employer, you set your own pace. You set your own worth, right? When you are an employee, as I have been for many years, they set the limit on how far you can go. They determine your worth based off of their view of how they think you perform. See, so those of us who have been called to be visionaries and called to be businessmen and women, but I'm primarily talking to the man right now, and this is applicable to both male and female, but those of us who have been called to be visionaries and businessmen, our road is not like the road of the person who is called to be an employee. Now let me say this, because I don't want the person who's called to be an employee to think that I'm saying that those of us who have been called to be businessmen or owners of business are greater. We're not saying that. We're saying that our success is not going to come like your success, because the purpose of the one who is a corporate person is different from the purpose of the one who is the business owner. Okay? That's the whole thing. Now, I said a mouthful there. So, remember, everything there is a season. So, because you and I was trying to do the wrong thing at the wrong season, it wasn't successful. You see. Or the Father may have allowed us to go a little bit, only to get to the point where now we have had to be pulled down from that place where we obtained. Okay, so now we're here. So now the question is, what can I do now? Right? So let me just finish what I'm sharing here. It says, Ecclesiastes, it says a season and a time to every purpose. So there is a season, right? It is an appointed time. Excuse me. It is an appointed time, right? So there is a season, and then there is a time, or in the Hebrew, it is the word eighth, which means now. It says time, especially now. Okay, now. So when is your now? Okay, and use that. I like that. Your now might not be now. If your now is not now, that means what? It's not your season. It's not your season. It may be your purpose, but not your season, so it's not your now. See? So when you understand or get the clarity that this is not my season, is not my now. So then what do I do while I'm in my not my now? Okay? What do? You tighten up yourself. Make preparations to do. Okay, if you can see now, if you're in a situation like myself where you search and can't find a job, you know what that means? It's time to create a job. So it's time to tighten up, to clean up, if you will. Okay, things that you have in your life that you don't need, things that are weights. Let's clean it up. Okay, things that are causing us to be non-productive and things that could possibly be a hindrance in the future. It's time to clean it up. It's time to clean it up. Okay, so that's what the season is. The season right now is, we see now why all these things are happening, and I'm using this and I'm putting this into practice myself. We're utilizing this time. The season right now is cleaning up, getting prepared to walk in my purpose, and my purpose is to be a business owner or a employer, not an employee. Okay, so tighten up what I do know. Okay, brush up the knowledge that I do have, add to the knowledge that I do have, right? So when the time is, when the 8th is, or the now is, now I'm able to walk into it in its entirety. Why? Because my now has come. Does that make sense? So now I'm not looking at anybody else to make me or to help me to make it, but I have got myself together through the help and the power of the Most High and His Spirit to do what? To walk into what it is that He has designed me to walk in. Give you an example. Adam was a visionary, the first man. He didn't come into the world and now he's filling out applications, trying to find him a job. He did what? He took his hands, he used his mind, he used his feet, he used every part of him to do what? To be a visionary, to produce everything that he needed to function. Think about that now. The Father, the Creator, has blessed you with the ability to do what? To use your mind, use your hands, use your feet, and every part of you for the purpose of your success. No one can stop that. People may reject you and tell you can't, but they can't stop you from producing. Why? Because you have the ability to produce. Okay? Now, having said that, in line with business, when we tighten up that in which we know and do and the ability that we have, that is our marketing tool. Okay? When people see the work that we do or can do, we don't have to sell it. It'll sell itself. We don't have to run an ad on a TV commercial. All we have to do is be out where people can see you and know or see what it is that you do or find you. We use the means of communication to let people know we're here or whatever, because how else would they know you were here if you didn't advertise? But you don't necessarily, but the best advertisement is the finished product of what you do. We let people see this is what we do, right? So now, having said that, this is what we do for the now. Okay, I have lived 50 years. I am 50 years young. Okay, and for many years I looked at groups and I had in my mind, let's do this. Let's do this. Now at age 50, the Creator showed me it's not about let's, it's about you. You do. So what can you do to make your way prosperous, right? Now let me read something. Okay, I'm going to read something. All right, this is something that is read but not really fully understood. Okay? This is what the Most High said to Joshua in Joshua 1 and 8. He says, "This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate." See that? The book of the law. Okay? See, from a religious perspective, people look at the Bible as a religious book and form religions out of it. But see, the book of the law is a book of instruction. It's a manual. And until we see the book as a manual, we will not apply the principles that's there for us to walk in our purpose and to be successful and to do the things that we desire to do. We've got to look at the book of the law and see what he says. So he says the book of the law, and when we say the book of the law, we're talking about everything that the Most High said, right, pertaining to how we are to interact with each other on the earth and our Creator in heaven. And some don't believe that, well, I don't believe in the Creators in heaven. Okay, well, you believe in something that has given you the ability to have life. You might not call it the Creator. You might not believe it's an individual being or whatever the case is, and that's your prerogative. But there's something that's greater than you that allowed you to be brought into this world. Whatever you choose to accept, that is. Okay? That's between you and the Creator. Okay? I have nothing to do with that. But when we look at this thing, the book of the law is the law of instruction, right? And now, life in itself is the book of law. Life in itself will dictate to you and show you the way. Many times we let other people dictate to us and give us an understanding of what it is that we should be doing or how or why we should accept something. But the conscious, the mind, untainted by society, dictates to us what we should be doing. We may suppress it and say, I don't want to hear that, something in the voice of my ear. But nature itself dictates what's right and what's wrong. Okay? Now, so he said, this book of the law, or the instructions. So when we look at this law, we look at the instructions that tells us how to function on the earth, right? This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth. See that? Now he don't mean that you just take the book and just keep confessing and wake up in the morning confessing. What he means is that it's a school. It's like we go to a university to learn how to be successful and how to get an education and work an occupation, versus going to school to get an education. And I learned that from one of my professors in college. They said, and they were of another ethnic group, and it was a woman, and she said, you people, she said it like that, go to college to get an education, to get a job. She said, but my people, we go to college to get an education. Okay? Because the more educated, she said, that you are, the more you're open to things, because you have more knowledge, and your knowledge is not just focusing on one particular area. And that, I think that was a golden nugget that she shared. Okay? So we have to look at it. He says, the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, meaning that we're constantly reading, learning the principles of life and the things that we should do and the things that we should not do for the purpose of having success, right? So watch what he says. He says that it shall not depart out of your mouth, but you shall meditate. See that? You shall meditate And from the Hebraic perspective, the word is hagah, which means to murmur. It says in pleasure or anger, by an implication to ponder, right? So to just meditate and to think on it, to map out your strategy, right? To be a planner, right? To meditate on the instruction to see how that the Creator gave us an instruction and how we can be successful. You see. All right. He said, meditate therein day and night, that you may observe, right? That you may observe. Okay, now I'm going to give you another word in the Hebrew, which is the word shamar, that you may observe or hedge about. To hedge about. It says, and it has in parentheses, as with thorns. To guard, right? To protect, to attend to. So to guard, protect, and to attend to. See that? That's what he's saying. To guard, to protect, and to tend to. That's what it means to observe. To guard, protect, and to tend to. So we are to guard the law, the laws that the Father placed before us. Protect, right? To protect that law. So when someone comes against the law and tell you don't do it that way, you say, well, I know this is right to do. And he says to do what? And to attend, or to attend to it. Okay? What does it mean to attend? To work. Attend. It's like being a parking attendant. Someone who is dedicated to that, right? And that's what it means to observe, to do. It says to observe, to do, right? According to all that is written therein, for then, you see, then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you shall have good success. See that? That's what the now is. So I'm in the position where, man, I'm about tired of looking for jobs. Okay, I'm jobbed out. I am looking for to be the job producer. It's hard for me to get that out. Let me say it again. I'm looking to be the job producer and not the job seeker. See? You can be a person who's looking for something to happen, or someone who's making something happen. Okay? So when you can't find that thing happening for you, it's because you have been purposed to be one to make it happen. You know, when you go to the store and you're looking for something in particular that's not there, and they say, we don't have anything like that here. Hint. You just might have been the one drafted to create that thing. See? Take your idea. Patent your idea. Okay? Go find out how you can introduce your idea to someone after you patent it. Somebody that has the ability to produce someone that has the resources to produce what you have designed in your mind. You see. All right? That's what purpose is. That is a person who is making something happen versus someone who's looking for something to happen. You're using that mind and you're saying, I'm going to create something, because in the long run, it's called, in the economic world, it's called economies of scale. Or not the economies of scale, I'm sorry. the invisible hands. Okay? For those of you that have taken economics, you understand that the invisible hand is a person who has primarily a selfish intent, but they're benefiting from the needs of other people. People need what you have, so you're producing it to service the people, but at the same time, you are reaping the benefit from being a producer and not a consumer. See that? So now, where we are right now is many of us are consumers and not producers. So we have to get in line so that we can now be producers and not consumers. See, just thought I would share that. And this is something that I'm going to exercise more and more now, because this is what the Spirit is giving me to say to you who's viewing and to myself. It's time to stop throwing our things out. You know, we've become normal, you know. We were so consumed with building other people's empire. You know, spending hundreds of dollars a month on things that we don't necessarily need. We're building them. Take your resources. I'm learning through this whole process of being miraculously cared for in going on 7 months without a source of income. But miraculously, the Father has begun to open my eyes to see that I've wasted money on things that I don't need. And that energy and that money that I wasted on those things, I should utilize that to produce, to make my way prosperous. Okay? Now, having said that, I'm going to read this and then I'm going to be done with this. I'm going to share this one last particular scripture. This is right in the word of the Most High, okay? Which we don't read this, but this is a principle that the Most High gave to the children of Israel, okay? Now, we have people that don't like to read the Old Testament. The Old Testament's done and all of that. I can, like they say down south, I can good and guarantee you the people who are successful read the principles from the Old Testament. They tell you not to read it. But those who are successful read the principles and apply the principles, because in applying the principles, he told us already in Joshua 1 and 8 that if you observe to do, if you meditate and the book of the law doesn't leave out of your mouth, he says that you will make your way successful and you will make your way prosperous and have good success. See that? He said you will make your way prosperous, right? Now, let me just give you that, then I'm going to go to this Jeremiah 29. The word for prosperous is the word salak, which means to push forward. It says, so prosperous means to push forward, not go backwards, right? To push forward, literally or figuratively, transitively to intransitively, or intransitively, okay? So you're transporting, you're going from one place to the next. You're not stagnant. You're going forward. So the prosperous is not talking about having a brand new car, you know, new clothes and all of that. No. Prosperous is going forward. You can have all those things and still not be prosperous. You have material things and could be living from paycheck to paycheck for that matter. Okay? I've done it. So what he's trying to get us to see is that that word salak means to go, to push forward, right? That's prosperous. He says, and then you shall have good success, which is sakal in Hebrew, which means to be causatively, to make or act circumspect, and hence intelligent. You see that? So this has nothing to do with materialism and the false prosperity of cars and houses and shoes and all of that. That's false prosperity that we're utilizing to build somebody else's empire. Okay? Maybe the Father is operating in your mind for you to design a car. That is having good success, because now others are buying what you have. You're not the consumer, you are the producer. You're not the employee, you are the employer. You see, you've graduated in the mind from being an employee to being an employer. If you just say, for example, you're a person who, star basketball player, you're making $18 million, you have an $18 million contract. Just think, you may have worked as a pro basketball player for 4 to 8 years. I don't know what the contract entails, but whatever the length of it is. If you made $18 million to work for 4 or 8 years, how much do you think you would have made if you were the owner of the basketball team? And how long would it have taken you to make 18 million? Probably can make 18 million in one season, or less than that. Maybe can make 18 million in one game, for all we know. Okay, if you go to the playoffs and they charging $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 tickets, or NFL. Okay, so that is the prosperous and good success. Now let me read this part here, Jeremiah, and then I'm going to close as we're coming to the close on the Shabbat. Okay, verse Jeremiah, or Yirmiyahu, chapter 29. Start at verse 1. All right. Yirmiyahu, or Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 1. Now these are the words of the letter that Yirmiyahu, the prophet, sent from Jerusalem unto the residue of the elders, which were carried away captives. So the prophet is speaking to Israelites who were carried away captives. Now, I don't want to go off into a whole nother lesson to explain that you African American men are an Israelite. That's another lesson, but that's the fact. Okay, but whatever you choose to accept or believe is up to you. But let me just say this here. What does it profit you to gain all those things and you physically are not obedient to how to handle or treat your body? There have been a lot of people that have been successful but have prematurely died because they didn't properly take care of their bodies. They were successful, but they died prematurely because they didn't take care of their bodies. They didn't observe the due according to the book of the law, which tells you how to eat, how to handle your body. That's another lesson. But there are things that we eat that cause us to get sick and tired and half dead. Okay? But here he's speaking to the Israelites who were carried away captives. He says, and to the priests and to the prophets and to all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had carried away captive from Jerusalem to Babylon. Now, let me just say this, and I'm going to keep it moving. Okay? We, African Americans, was brought into a land of captivity. I know where we are today. You say, brother, we free now. Okay? Yeah. Okay? You're not free until you are free in the mind. Many of us are still caught up in the American way, the American dream, hoping and wishing and praying and believing that I can become successful and all of that with the American dream. Okay? Your fathers and my fathers was brought into this land as captives, not as partners of this country. Okay? That's a fact. Whether you think it's a racial statement or whether you disagree, the reality of the matter is, read the history books and read the laws of this land that said specifically that the African American black man was less than 3/5 of a man. Okay? Was not equal. And there were laws that was passed to prohibit the black man from being successful. Okay? Laws were passed to prohibit the success of the black male. So your fathers were brought into this land as captives, just like the Israelites was taken into the land of Babylon as captives. So he says, whom Nebuchadnezzar had carried away captive, right? Which is the Hebrew word galah. It says a primitive root to derud, especially in a disgraceful sense, by implication to exile. Captives being usually stripped. See that? Figuratively, to reveal. So our ancestors was brought into this land stripped. Just like the Israelites were brought into Babylon stripped. Okay? Don't you forget that now. So he says, verse 2, after that Jeconiah, the king, and the queen, and the eunuchs, and the princes of Yehuda and Jerusalem, and the carpenters, and the smiths were departed from Jerusalem. You see that? So everybody, all of the economic developers was taken into captivity. When you think about it, when you read in the African American history, a lot of the ideas and inventions came from the captives. The people took the idea as they brainstormed, same as what they're doing in corporate America, taking your idea, blowing up their corporation, and giving you a stipend. That's what they did to the captives in the early days of America. Same thing in Israel. They brought the captives in. They brought the queens, the kings, the eunuchs, the princes. They brought the carpenters, those who build, and the smiths. So they brought those. It says the carpenter is from the Hebrew karash, which means a fabricator of material. So those who design clothes. What is one of the biggest industries in the world today? Clothing. Everybody buys clothes. So get a sewing machine, design some clothes, make some work clothes. It don't have to be an extravagant designer. It could be just something simple that people buy and spend money. $1 can go a long ways. Say you might design some cheap shoes that cost $1. It might cost you 20 cents to make it, right? I'm just giving a hypothetical, okay? That may not be realistic, but you understand what I'm saying, right? So these people were brought into captivity. Carpenters, smiths. Okay, who were the smiths? Those who, it says, a fastener, that is a person, a smith of a thing. Okay, now, so they took the carpenters, the smiths, and they were departed from Jerusalem. Verse 3. It says, by the hand of Elasah, the son of Shaphan, and Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah, the king of Yehuda, sent unto Babylon, to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, saying, thus says Yah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, unto all that are carried away captives, whom I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem unto Babylon. See that? Verse 5. He says, to build you houses. Build houses. Okay? So these were people that was brought into captive lands with the knowledge and ability to build houses. Okay? Everybody needs a place to live. So until we see or get an appreciation for the value of land, we'll never be on the capitalizing end of the revenue that comes from those who make affordable housing. You don't have to get filthy rich off of it, but you can make affordable housing to those who don't have places to live by getting land that people don't want, that they don't appreciate. You grab a hold of it, you clean it up, fix it up, put somebody in there, right? So he said, build houses and dwell in them. See that? First, you build a house for you first. Stop wasting your money in an apartment building. Building somebody else's revenue. Many people spend their whole life living in an apartment. Building somebody else's empire. Okay? You spend your whole life living in an apartment, building somebody else's empire. Okay? Let me give you a hypothetical, right? All right? Let me just give you some numbers just to make you think here. Okay? We're going to give you some numbers. All right? Let's just say your rent. I'm gonna use a unrealistic figure just to show you simplicity, right? Let's just say your rent's $400 a month, right? Now, $400 a month will cost you $400 a month will cost you per year $4,800 a year. Let's say if you spend 30 years paying $4,800, this is what it's going to cost you. You spend $4,800 a year, and that's not an unrealistic number, and you spent 30 years paying that. That's $144,000 in 30 years that you paid to rent an apartment. And that's an unrealistic number because nobody pays $400 a month for rent. Average rent now is about $800 a month. Let's use that figure, okay? $800, okay, times 12 is $9,600. And let's just say you spend 30 years, so you start out at age 20 and you renting all the way up until you're 50. So let's just say 30 years. Okay, let's try it again. 800 times 12 is 9,600 times 30 is $288,000 that you pay for rent in a 30-year period. Now, quite naturally, we know that the cost of living is going to go up, so the rent's going to get higher and higher as time progresses. So you're going to pay more money. So to build a house wouldn't have cost you $288,000. Okay? Now, so he said to build houses, not get a mortgage. It's a difference between getting a mortgage, because let's say, for example, you bought a house that cost $288,000 and you pay for it for 30 years, right? Now, you're going to pay probably you're going to pay close to $1 million. You can pay about 800 plus, about $864,000 for that house in 30 years. That cost $288,000. So we can see here from just looking at what he says to build houses, right? And dwell in them, right? Now, the next part he says to plant gardens. Plant, right? Gardens. To plant gardens. Why are we planting the gardens? To eat the fruit of it. So say you go to the grocery store. Well, we're going to do it again. Okay? You go to the grocery store. And you spend about $50 a week per person. Okay? So if you got 2 in the house, you're going to probably spend $100 a week. So that's just a two-member household. So you're talking $100 a week times 52. That's $5,200 on just $100 a week. You multiply that times the average person, let's say, go from their 20s all the way up to 70. So you're talking 50. So if you multiply that times 50 years without inflation, that's $260,000 that you spent just to eat food that wouldn't have cost you that if you grew it, your own food. So in being a consumer versus being a producer, we can see why the importance of building houses and dwelling in the houses, right? And planting gardens and eating of the fruit of the gardens, where you're saving money, because as the market is still going up, right? By you growing your own food and groceries and things, you're saving money. At the same time, you can even have a field where you take and sell to them. And the money, the 200 and what I say was $260,000 over 50 years, you made $260,000 because easily you could sell $100 worth of groceries a week if you're constantly producing the fruit and vegetation that people need. Okay? So you build a convenience store, a produce stand or whatever, and you sell your product, and there goes your money right there. But you got to get the land first, right? Okay, now, how do you get the land? Very simple. Drive somewhere and find some land that nobody wants. Find out who owns it, and find out how you can acquire it. 9 chances out of 10, they'll give it to you because they don't want. They give it. They're tired of paying taxes on a piece of property that they're not using. Okay, so there's many ways to acquire the land. Okay, or you may inherit the land for that matter, or it may fall on you. Right? Nobody else in the family wants it. Okay, now. So he says, plant gardens and eat the fruit thereof of them. Then he says, take you wives. Didn't say get girlfriends. Didn't say be promiscuous and have a girl on the other side of town. But he said, take wives and beget sons, right? And daughters. And take wives for your sons. See that? So in other words, you're building up your family. Why? Because the profit. You're making more employees. You are the employer who's producing employees who will eventually produce, who will eventually become employers, who will produce employees to become employers. You see. So it's a cycle that goes around. Right? So because he says, take wives for your sons and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters. See, that's going around. That you may increase. How are we increasing? Okay, we're increasing. We are making our abundance of things, and you're doing it where? Within our corporation, if you want to use that phraseology, if you like that. Okay. Now, so he said that you may increase there and not diminish. You see that? Now, that's the word ma'at, which means to pair off, lessen, to be causatively, to make small or few, ineffective. See that? So he wants us to take wives for our sons and give husbands to our daughters so that we can be effective, so that we can produce and not consume, if you will. You see? So that you may increase and not diminish. Then he says, and seek the peace of the city where I have caused you to be carried away captive. Why are we seeking the peace? Because they are our bread and butter. In other words, we are going to sell to, he says, seek the peace of the city where I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto Yah for it, for in the peace thereof you shall have peace. See that? So as I close, I wanted to share that. So in the now, that's what we can do. You know, forget the past, the scars that happened. Utilize what you experienced and learn from those experiences, and not do the same thing, because many times we end up in the same position because we are repeating our performance. We're doing the same thing. We got to change. Okay? Nobody's going to give you anything, right? And you don't have to steal it, but you can make your way prosperous by working with your own hands. Let me leave you with that one there. Okay, this is the Barith Kadash, or what the world calls the New Testament. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Okay, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 11. He says, and that you study, right? Study, and we're going to use the Greek here for clarity. That you study, which is the Greek word philatamiamahi, which means to be fond of honor. That is to emulous, to eager, earnest to do something. So he says that you be earnest and diligent. Because see, those who gossip and who meddle other people's affairs, it's very impossible for you to be successful when you're meddling with somebody else's joint. Because you're wasting time, but you should be building yours by meddling on somebody. So he said that you study, or that you be fond of, or that you be eager to be quiet. Okay? That is the word hazakadzo, which means to keep still. It says that is to refrain from labor, meddlesomeness, or speech. See that? That you study right? Or that you be diligent to not be a meddler, but mind your own business, right? To do your own business, he said. You see that? To do your own business and to work with your own hands as we command you. See that? A successful person is not a meddler. They're not a busybody of other men's affairs. He says, and to work with your own hands as we command you, that you may walk honestly towards them that are without, and that you may have lack of nothing. See that? So he's saying, you get yourself busy in being successful in doing that which the book of the law has instructed, all that was commanded, that you can have good success and prosper and not be focusing in on what somebody else is doing or not doing, and focus on building, and you will have good success. So that's for the now and where we are. And what can we do now is we could get busy and we could seek out the instruction of the Most High so we can know what it is that He has given us to do to make our way prosperous and have good success. Having said that, I pray that you had a blessed Shabbat. And until the next time, may the blessings of the Most High Yah be with you and your family. Shalom, shalom, shalom.